there. I see my voice going up and down the soundboard there, which means we could probably start this. Hi, I'm James Flintworth Burns. Welcome to a very merry holiday special of two fantastic films with two of some of my closest friends. I am, of course, talking about the fantastic Kimberly in her little peanut sweater, as well as Tiffany in her little jingle jangle earrings, and if you look very closely, her little peppermint eyeliner.
Oh yeah, I forgot it. Oh,
yeah, look at that.
What? I didn't see that. That's so cute.
Yeah, look at that talent there.
Thank you.
Look at that talent. But hi, thank you for quick patience there. We had a bit of a connection issue, and then just making sure the cams look pretty. But we did it. We're here. We're alive. Here to talk about two fantastic films. Krampus by Michael Dougherty, one of my personal spooky favorites, as well as Black Christmas, one of my personal spooky favorites. They're both my favorites. I like them a lot. And normally I would have us talk about these films individually, but because of time and life, they're been smashed together in one holiday special that is The Graveyard Gush. So, yay!
And I think it works out really fun too because I love Krampus and Kimberly loves Black Christmas, so it kind of works out that you have equal going on.
Equal passion.
Okay, I didn't really know this, which I think maybe this discussion today then be, and mind you, this is all on the fly for those at home. And thank you, Baka. I think I saw you, Baka Tanukis, once again listening in. We might make this kind of a battle of the Christmas spooky specials. Which one is better, Krampus or Black Christmas?
Oh my god.
Passionately.
Yeah, right. And if you think about it, both have done so much, not just for the horror genre, but also for the holidays in themselves. So, and well, this may be the ref. You know, I'll do that because you leave you two to then pitch your passions. I'll fill in my own thoughts here and there. I'll try to be neutral and unswayed, but this is Christmas. I can also take some briberies.
Please.
Yeah, because I am also very much pagan. Yeah, Yuletide. Anyway. Okay, in that case, where really truly to begin with this? Flip a coin, but I don't really have that. So in this case, we're going to go down the line on the usual things we talk about. So, and by all means, you two fill in your own kind of categories. So I'm thinking, just like characters, monster or killer in Billy's case. I want to see special effects because it's going to be a kind of unfair advantage to Christmas, but it'd be also unfair to not talk about it with Krampus.
I think we also need to add in Christmas spirit. Which one has the most Christmas spirit?
I like that. Okay,
but they're very, very different movies. So I have cultural relevance and importance to the genre, you know?
Oh, we're getting deep here.
You can't not with that movie. It's not a fun movie at all. It's only
this is the problem. You've picked the two most competitive friends to go up against
I
each
picked
other.
nothing. This is all on the spot, and this is going to be fun. This will be great. Okay. Hi, Kona. Look at your little elf there. All right. In that case, the best place to start is at the beginning. So let's go with the one that people usually always talks about. Get the hard one out of the way. The quality of it, the overall, if someone comes to you and asks, hey, is this a good movie? What would you say? And we'll let age go first with Black Christmas. Kimberly, take us off here. What is your hard rating, to Black Christmas?
Yeah, I feel like Black Christmas is a perfect slasher. It is one of the oldest slashers. It's the first one that has killer POV, so just respecting its place in genre is, it precedes Halloween, so it beats it by a year. But it generally, to me, is the movie that best captures women's fear, even with all the movies that have come since then. All the characters make all the right choices and are seeking help, but because they're not taken seriously and not fully investigated, and because sexual harassment is just run-of-the-mill for many women's experiences, they are deeply victimized. And so it's not a fun movie. I feel bad because a lot of my favorite Christmas horror movies are like a little silly and a little goofy. And so if you're looking for fun, I'm sorry you're not going to find it here. But if you're looking for a slasher that stays scary without needing to cheapen out by using, cheap jump scares or over-the-top gore, it is scary simply because of the story and the stylized elements that they use to tell it. It's just incredibly effective.
Oh yeah, and I agree in all avenues. I see here that according to IMDb, that the rating for Black Christmas, is like 7 out of 10. I haven't checked for Black Christmas is 7 out of 10. I didn't say Krampus yet. I have to look into that. But I would say that's kind of a fair assessment for it, considering the time and place. Like, for me, it's not like the biggest, greatest film of all time, but it is culturally a strong, strong cornerstone in the history books.
It really is, because I know I'm supposed to be going for Krampus, but I'm joining in on this because this also predates When a Stranger Calls. So this was the thing that started.
100%. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
So I need you to go and repeat everything you just said, Tiffany, because I froze at my end.
Oh, no. Okay. So all I was saying was the thing about Black Christmas, too, is that it's so influential because when everyone thinks of like the calls coming from within the house, they think of When a Stranger Calls. And honestly, Black Christmas came first. They started that.
I do agree. Black Christmas definitely set up like the original slasher. But wouldn't you say, considering that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is also a big time slasher film, that came out, I believe, like 3 months before Black Christmas. Now, would you say that would take away Christmas's crown as the first, or would
No.
Texas be a different kind of horror? Okay, yes, please.
A perfect slasher. It's not the first slasher. There are slashers that come from earlier. I feel like that's where it sits in genre. It is the first that has killer POV camera, though. So having the killer's perspective for all of the kills and hearing the breathing and just seeing things through that shaky cam, this starts that. And that's one that Halloween usually gets the credit for. So that's the only crown that I really try to nab for this one, that I'm like, hey, everyone thinks of Halloween. Just like what Tiff is talking about with the phone calls. There's a lot that's started by this movie that it doesn't always get its crown for. And maybe it's just because it's a Christmas movie, but I put that in quotes because it's really, it's not festive, It's just very dark, and then it has lights, I
will say, too, comparing it to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in Texas Chainsaw, the kids are actively going out to this situation versus in Black Christmas, the killer's coming to them. So it wasn't ever something that they could avoid. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another thing that really kind of resonates the fear factor of this movie, is that it's not, there's nothing they could have done that would have changed what happened.
Yeah.
And boy, the way that they build tension in it, there are numerous, throughout the whole movie are these long voyeuristic shots that you can see what's happening, but through the railings or around the corner. And so you can feel the presence of the killer. But in like 99% of the shots in that movie, a kill is not happening. Most of those long shots are just that your heart's beating in such a way that you're like, I'm being watched right now. It feels dirty in a really effective way.
Yeah, we'll go into more later, but like just the fact alone that Billy in Black Christmas is seen typically with nothing more than just the light around a silhouette of his eye haunts me in my dreams. Yeah.
He hates it.
Yeah. I hate it to this day. That was like the very almost like, because the first time I watched Black Christmas, it was on TV, and so I've come in knowing nothing about what's going on, and it's the shot of him through the thing with his eye and him whispering, and to this day it's one of the scariest things that has ever gotten to me.
Yeah. For those who are just joining in, because I notice we're getting a few people now. Today's topic has been decided. We're discussing Of the two films, Black Christmas and Krampus, which of the two is the better quintessential horror film? Now, there's plenty of others out there, before you start throwing out Gremlins and all that. We'll bring that in later. Right now, the current matchup is between the big goat and Billy in the attic, which I've now found at least an example of the shot of him in the film. They have to bring up on the cam just because it's I
will be closing my eyes at this part.
Yeah. I found the one behind the door, but this is the shot of him, with the glass unicorn, which is
Okay, we're gonna get into the unicorn later.
Yeah. But now we need to switch it around. Krampus's turn, Tiff. So unlike Black Christmas, which right now on Rotten Tomatoes has 71 critic score, 76 for viewers. Krampus, unfortunately, is sitting at 66 for reviewers.
It did not do well at
52
all. Krampus did not do well at all. No, I love Krampus though. In complete contrast to Black Christmas, Krampus is kind of that silly, goofy, dark Christmas movie. It's not necessarily a horror movie. It's not a slasher at all, but it's just kind of like a ridiculous, dark Christmas movie where if you are not wanting to watch something necessarily happy and joyous, it has comedy to it. It's a very interesting mix of practical effects and then weird CGI too, and we'll get into that later when we were talking about our categories. But it's essentially a movie where everybody's kind of Christmas spirit is just gone, and then the last kid who really believed in it is nope, my family screwed everything up, I hate all of you, you're the worst family ever. And then it's kind of the consequences of not believing in Christmas, which is a ridiculous concept, but it's so much fun because the way it comes about is kind of eerie and creepy, and it's a really fun mix of just silly because you have these ridiculous CGI gingerbread men that are just funny. They don't look realistic, and then you have the mix of the terrifying toys, the angel doll with the creepy long tongue that's licking people. You have the Jack in the Box, which I think is one of the best things in that movie, where its jaw just unhinges and starts eating people in the most terrifying way.
Screech, man.
It's a good mix of just a silly horror-esque movie without being committing to just total horror and slasher.
I do think it also needs to be said that, while Black Christmas has these true horror important roots, Krampus is playing with, they're just such different movies, but it's playing with these really important Christmas themes. And so it's a wonderful life. You wish your whole family was gone, and then you see what it would be like if they were gone. It's if George Bailey had to watch everyone murder his brother and his family and all the planes that went down. If he had to violently watch the murders and then want his life back, that's Krampus.
Well, and it also starts out where it's this it kind of has the Thanksgiving opening before Thanksgiving, where it's the Black Friday where people are beating each other to get
that Thanksgiving by his name escapes me right
Eli
now.
Roth.
Thank you, Eli Roth and Krampus have basically the same start of Black Friday shopping. Mm-hmm. Who did it better?
And you just see people getting beaten over Christmas stuff, and then it's a family comes home and the traditional grandmother is baking all this stuff, and everyone's just yeah, today sucked. All right, let's get ready for dinner, kind of thing.
Yeah. One of our viewers quoted in the comments, "Better celebrate Noel, or your whole family's taking a big L," which I think is funny. Yeah, the Krampus opening is gold, which I'm going to take my own moment away to not be the ref at this, who, once again, I'm totally unbiased on this. I am a fair judge. The opening to Krampus is, to me, one of the highlights. For the fact that it's all in slow-mo, hearing Big Crosby, it's look a lot like Christmas. And there's just so much to unpack, from the fact that various employees are blatantly either getting killed or being knocked straight into the ER and no one's caring, to the fact that toys are getting ripped apart. It basically took the whole premise of Jingle All the Way to a greater extreme, which is saying a lot because Jingle All the Way has a goddamn parade flight with pyrotechnic jetpacks. Love you, Arnold. Love that film. But more importantly, I was watching it today, and I cannot get over the fact that it took me this long to realize the store they're in is called Mucho Mart. Mucho Mart. Like M-U-C-H-O. Like,
More.
Yeah.
More Mart. More store.
More. Yeah. And for some reason, it has a goddamn Christmas recital on the far back of all this chaos. But the cherry...
It's an excellent opening.
It is.
Well, and they're in a fist fight, too, over, like, the manger. They're just straight up beating each other.
With the grandma that's happily playing on the piano. I'm assuming high on the greatest eggnog in the world. But compare that. It makes a good segue now to look at Black Christmas's opening, which isn't it just a straight up cold opening of Billy from outside? It is.
You get the breathing, and you're very slowly approaching the house, like through the whole credits. So you already set in that long built tension and that voyeuristic feeling, and then you just drop in on a party, and it's not a stylized kind of a piece like that. It's more, okay, here's the people, here's where we're at. You're in a sorority house, and here's your cast. So I think they just use that. It's underneath the credits almost the whole time in the opening, and they make good use of their credits, which you can't say about every movie from the 70s. So I give them some credit for that. Some credit for the credits.
I feel like both movies do such a good job of setting the tone instantly, because you have Krampus where it's Christmas music, but it's just utter chaos going on mixed with modern things taking over traditions. And then you have Black Christmas, which starts out just tension immediately and not explaining anything, and it's expecting you to follow and figure it out.
100%. And the use of music in both is completely different too, because Krampus does have, even in its eerie moments, it's got the dramatic sleigh bells in the background, even when they give it a minor shift. It's very like, it knows what it's doing. It's a little bit of a bit. It's part of where a lot of the comedy comes from, is taking these joyous songs and putting them on a violent background. And then in Black Christmas, you have caroling is really common, but because of that, it sounds very human and a little bit lilting and a little bit off key throughout the whole movie. And so it feels a little bit more vulnerable as opposed to presentational, which I think suits the tones of both of them as well. It's a great difference on how you can use the Christmas music to push a horror plot.
It also is interesting to see how the use of music in terms of inside their narratives have such a stark difference. Like the music inside Black Christmas is very much a part of the character's story that they're aware of it, whether it's distracting them from the noise upstairs or the recital from, I forget her name, escapes me, but the boyfriend's whole piano recital being like this aggressive playing. Peter, thank you. Yes. Is a major part of the story of his own kind of unhinging mind and just leaving up understandably the red herring to the police that he ends up being, compared to Krampus, which is like, it's there for the viewers to set up the dramatic moments of like, oh, the funny bits because by the way, I have to say, Krampus of the Bells is one of my favorite spooky songs I ever hear. I love the spooky choir, but in Black Christmas, it's almost like the lack of really strong songs helps it out. But before we get further into that, going back forward to like really the overall, I think, movie quality and just the nature of what both of them are doing, I personally have to give the point to Black Christmas in this regard, only because of just, despite how it's older and it's a bit more ambiguous in certain parts, it still leaves a stronger, deep impact. Whereas Krampus is a bit less sloppy at some points. My own wife, Jade, earlier today, stopped me in my tracks when I was watching it. It's like, I love this movie until we get to the point with Omi telling the whole legend about Krampus suddenly in English.
And then it turns into a stop-motion movie for a little bit.
Which is cool. I love. I have suspicion of disbelief, but she's also right, and I'm kind of annoyed by it, but she's right, and I have to acknowledge that because I love her. But God. What was that? She love you too. And there's more I want to bring up with Black Christmas's story, like because it does go some pretty hard into some big social commentary in the 70s, no less, which I also think helps
and
a lot,
because
too.
it was. You have the main. See, I'm not even supposed to be talking about Black Christmas, and I'm like, I want to talk about Black Christmas.
Let it bring you in.
Yeah. So because you have this main character who knows who she is, she wants what she wants for her future, and she is like, she wants to get an abortion, which is super political even now to this day. And her boyfriend is like, well, no, you're supposed to like we're gonna get married and have this kid. And she's like, no, you didn't even ask me. And just completely not even thinking about what she wants in her life when she is so strong and knows exactly what she wants.
Yes, the characters, the way that the social commentary is used, I think makes the characters incredibly real, because it takes all of these young women that are right at that age that you're learning your own boundaries and your own beliefs. You know, they're sorority girls, they're in college, and also testing those boundaries. We have a character who drinks a lot, who is visibly drunk like the whole show. But what it brilliantly does is it does not make anyone die because of the choices that they're making as young women and young adults. No one dies because they're considering an abortion. No one dies because they're drunk. No one dies because they're sexual or because they're independent or because they are rebelling against religion, which is a little bit of a theme that comes through because the girl who's missing the whole time, who's killed.
Claire.
Claire. Who's
I don't know
why,
but characters' names stick with me.
That's excellent. Claire, who's killed in the beginning, no one finds her, even by the end of the movie. But her father comes in, and he's clearly a very religious man, and Claire was even a little more religious, and now we're in the sorority house where we have sexy images everywhere. And so you have all these themes of, all right, you're in the real world now, girls, like, go live your life. And no one dies because of it. They die because there's a crazy man in their house. And that is part of why it's so freaking scary to me, because no one does anything wrong the whole time. They go and get help right away, and the cops don't super want to help until the men help.
I would argue there's one thing that one character does very distinctly wrong near the end of Black Christmas.
I mean, yes, she does run back in the house.
I do have to read a few things I have to know what our viewers are saying, which are kind of fun, like...
She does run back in the house.
Please tell us, because I can't see what anyone's saying.
Yeah, because Bracken did mention, once again, that Krampus opening was gold. Hard to agree with that.
Yeah.
They also said that... this whole I'm assuming they might be talking about Black Christmas, whereas this is strangely reminded me of the opening of Jaws: The Revenge, which is also technically a Christmas movie, which I did not know. Is it a Christmas? Does it take place around Christmas time? But
I've only seen the original.
Yeah,
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, but that said, they do have the point that Black Christmas seems like it's meant to be more unsettling, while Krampus is meant to be fun because, you know, as they also say, I mean, an army of killer gingerbread men, which
absolutely,
is one of my favorite parts of
two completely different, like, not necessarily genres, but just feeling and overall just, I can't think of ambiance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now,
100%.
Baka has written some German here, which this could be sad because I did study German in high school. They wrote in, this Weihnachten, Herr Krampus got me ein Arschwipen. Whoopin', okay. Got me ein, okay, I get it. I get it. Now that I see it alphabetically. I guess Jesus more abstinence, actually.
And that's one thing that I really loved about Krampus is that the bilingual family seemed so real because you have this grandmother who can speak English, but she grew up in Germany speaking German, so she prefers to speak German. And then you have both her son, Adam Scott, and her grandson, who understand completely, but because they grew up in America and they prefer to speak English, they can still converse and talk to each other and be completely fine. And I loved that, where it didn't have to be this person can only speak in this person can only speak in this, and somebody has to, like, it worked really well for me. Yes, they're translating to the family members who don't speak German, but it seemed very realistic and not forced to me.
Yeah, and the fact that she does it all by choice, I think is just kind of says a lot about Omi, who is one of my favorite characters of all time. Where's our sequel?
Omi.
Where's more? I want more Omi, please. And I guess yes, Jaws Revenge does indeed take around Christmas, because the opening kill of Revenge has Keller singing Noel in the background. What a thunk. We'll get to that, I guess, next year, which is the worst Christmas horror movie. Jaws the Revenge, or, I don't know, take your pick. There's so many bad.
We'll figure out something.
I love Silent Night, Deadly Night, but not because it's good.
Oh, gosh.
Trash day!
That's the sequel.
It is. Well, the sequel is just Silent Night, Deadly Night for like the first 40 minutes, and then the sequel.
Which is iconic in so many ways. Oh. Gotta talk about Christmas Evil, too. Die Hard, baby. Okay, that's not a bad Christmas.
I love Die Hard. Yeah. I love Die Hard.
Okay. So we have, like, overall, the first point to Black Christmas. Let's go into like talking about the characters of both of these films, because it's such a different crew, and I wanted to mainly focus on those because of just, as you said, Kimberly, how the sorority girls in Black Christmas don't deserve anything really that happens to them. Well, in relation to Krampus, oh my dear God, dude, they deserve everything that's coming to them.
Relatives from hell.
Yes. And the thing is, I love most about both casts, despite their, strengths and weaknesses, they're both fucking hilarious across the board in their own rights. Like, when you see them getting punched in both films, it hurts a little. It does.
Yeah, they're both really strong ensembles. I mean, most of the reasons why I love the Black Christmas cast is kind of my whole last rant about, the way that they are so naturally portrayed. I feel like most attempts at portraying girlhood and womanhood and sisterhood on screen are so contrived. And this was just natural and easy, and what it actually feels like to be surrounded by women who maybe you don't agree with, but they are also kind of your found family, and what that's, the line between I don't agree with you and we have very different beliefs versus I still feel duty bound to protect you because the world isn't designed for our safety. And so I feel like it's a very natural sisterhood that's portrayed. And yes, there's other characters that are a part of it, and I think it's strong performances across the board. But if you like this movie, you have to be on board with the girls. I think that's what carries it.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question about the characters. So I want to know your thoughts on the character of Peter.
Yeah.
Played by Peter Julia?
Because the girls are fantastic. Billy is terrifying, and you don't really see a lot of him, which is what makes him really scary. But to me, I feel like the weakest out of everybody is Peter.
Yeah,
because
For me, why I'm glad his story is there. As an actor, I think he's fine. I don't feel strongly that he's excellent. I don't feel strongly that he's bad. I'm just like, all right, he's the guy who plays Peter. But I think why I'm glad that his story is there is because it helps show us and remind us, not that we need the reminder because it's a dark enough movie, but that even without Billy, she's not safe, because she's decided that she's going to have an abortion, and he does threaten her. He threatens violence against her very aggressively, and he's scary, and he's a violent guy. He smashes a piano because he's frustrated. He's clearly got some stuff pent up. And when and full spoilers ahead here, but when he comes in at the end, he returns, and the lead character kills him. His girlfriend kills him because she thinks that he is the killer, because the police thought that he might be the killer. Her friends thought that he might be the killer because he'd been threatening her. And then, of course, she's still not safe because he wasn't. But I think that it's fair to say that she may have been in danger either way. He had no reason to be there tonight. He had no reason to stalk her into the basement and break into the basement to see her. Like, that's an extreme level of wanting to see a person. And the last conversation, he had threatened her. And so I think it's just a really strong representation of, like, yes, there's the really obvious evils, but also womanhood is to be in danger in a lot of situations. And so I think that his story belongs there for that reason. At the same time, if you're talking about his performance, I don't feel here or there about it.
And I don't feel like it was the actor's choice. I just meant like it's the character in general, the way the character is written, his story. So that was perfect.
And considering he's played by the great Kyer Duluth, aka the guy from 2001: Space Odyssey, I mean, we do know he can act.
That movie scares me. That movie scares me bad. It freaks me out.
I fell asleep. It's the only movie in my life that I had to watch and fast forward. Like, I literally sat there in the VCR just like.
I wish I had. It's just disturbing imagery for like 3 hours.
Yeah, it is disturbing imagery.
But what I was going to say that from a male's perspective with Black Christmas in this regard, I know it's a fascinating view in like how, as a man, you tend to focus more on the things you can see. Like, so Billy to a guy like me is terrifying. I have nightmares on like going around my house and it's thinking, okay, where's the eye gonna come out? Where's the eye? Like, okay, is he behind the door? But it's also a chilling reminder what Peter does. It's kind of like, what's worse, the villain or monster you can't see or the one you know? And both are chilling cautionary tales that everyone should be knowledgeable of because they can happen to anyone. And with that somber tone, real quick, gonna do a shift. Just pointed out some funny things I've seen in the chat once again. Baka, during that conversation, it was like, Peter Cottontail? Moments later. Peter not Cottontail. Noted. Which, what was that surname? Isn't that the land that, Peter, what was it? I mean, Dula? No, that's his last name is not in the land that Farquaad rules. This isn't Spirit of Shrek at all. But Bracken also made a cool point that for those who do want to watch Black Christmas, it is, I guess, on YouTube for free if you want to watch it.
It's free everywhere.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Go catch it. It's on all the streaming services that are free. So like your Tubi, your Shudder's got it, all the good stuff.
I mean, it's been out for so long. It's also Canadian, so their copyright laws have no say down here in
love
America.
Canadian horror movies.
It just had its 50th anniversary a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
one of my favorite horror movies is a Canadian film, which is My Bloody Valentine.
I love Bloody Valentine.
We'll talk about that Valentine's Day, though.
It's also kind of crazy to think about that Krampus, segue, is celebrating its 10th anniversary next year, which is wild. But Tiff, let's throw it to you with the family that's in Krampus.
So, it definitely has more characters in this film, but it's kind of you have some really great powerhouses. You have Adam Scott, you have Toni Collette.
I think you're saying his character named Adam Scott from
Parks and Rec. I love Adam Scott. And that's just because I loved Parks and Rec. But no, like Toni Collette is in it.
His name is Adam Scott. My apologies. I thought that was his name from.
No, Ben Wyatt.
Ben Wyatt. I'm an idiot. Please continue.
But
no, it's all good.
Usually terrifying, and so seeing Toni Collette be doing something that's like a family kind of a goofy with a scary spin is.
I know. I loved it. I also love her in Knives Out, and so anyway, but you have some good powerhouses there. Hello, Kona. You have some powerhouses there, but you also have so many characters that they have to have a personality in order to kind of stand out. You have the mom and the dad who aren't necessarily super close anymore. You have the older sister who really doesn't want to spend any time with her brother. You have the little boy who's just trying to have a good Christmas. You have the grandmother. And then you have the kind of National Lampoon Vacation family that comes over.
With David Koechner.
Yes, but it's not. Can you sit, please? But it's not exactly the same type of story. You have, it's definitely this type of family where they have very different dynamics. You have the uncle who is like the Republican, I need my guns, all that kind of stuff. You have the aunt that nobody really likes who just kind of came up to join herself. You have the two older sisters who are just the most tomboyish people possible. And then you have like the weird younger brother who's just, all you can say about him is weird. He doesn't talk. He just sits there. You're like, I don't want you in this room. Like, get away. So there's a lot of big personalities, but I feel like they had to be in order to have a type of relationship and things that you could remember them for. Because otherwise, if they were just like, yeah, that's the cousin, like in Home Alone, I don't remember the name of any of those brothers and sisters other than Buzz. Nobody gives a shit. So you have to, it was enough to kind of get everybody in there. But then on top of that, you have the core family stuck in the house. And now you have all these kind of other, like, they're more monsters. So maybe not going into that. But then you also have the character of Krampus himself, which is very looming. You hear about him way beforehand, and then before he finally shows up. So it's also where there are really nice moments between them. Like, yes, they can't stand each other. They fight. They literally get into fist fights. But then you also have the really kind moments, like when they're reading his letter and he's like, you know, my aunt and uncle have a really hard time. I would love for you to be able to help them out. And you kind of find, okay, there is a little bit of like family here. It's not just I'm dealing with you because I have to deal with you kind of thing.
And that reveal of Krampus is so good. Like, obviously the character design is based on so much lore and like it's a folk tale, but it's this long shot and it's in profile as Krampus slowly leans in, and that's the first time you actually see him in the movie, and it is just so satisfying.
I would say,
well, and like I said,
that's
I'll
the first time
probably
you see him, you know, full frontal. He does show up at the very start of the film as a silhouette in the background, which to me is horrifying to watch in itself, because that, I think we're far enough into YouTube's babysitting mode, because that fucker can jump, man. He's got some legs.
I love the shot. I love the shot where you kind of see his silhouette, where Beth is just like, it's so cold, she can't figure it out, and you turn around, or she's looking somewhere, and you see behind her just the huge silhouette of him on the roof, and you kind of get this scale of, oh my god, this fucker's huge. So, but again, I'll probably go into more when we're talking about like, the monster stuff, because I love some of the choices they picked for that. But I think it also is just that huge amount of buildup that you're hearing from all these other characters before he finally actually doesn't actually show his face.
Yeah. One thing I find kind of funny, because I was going through the cast while you were talking, Tiff. Apparently, Seth Green is one of the characters in the film.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Any guess which one he
Did
plays?
he voice somebody?
You're getting close.
I can't
Wait,
guess.
did he play one of the elves?
No, that's what I thought too. His character name is Lumpy.
Is he did he play the gingerbread man?
He's one of the gingerbread men.
God damn it.
Come on.
I will say the gingerbread men are my least favorite part of that whole movie. They take me out of it. But I love everything else.
Yeah. As someone who, I mean, yes, I know I'm not gunning for, but I like the bad CGI gingerbread men, and I'm not someone who likes bad CGI. I'm all about practical, but I think with how weird and whimsical the movie is, having these, like, they look like a sticker on the screen, and they're, like, bouncing around, it works for me. For me, I'm like, this is on point with the tone. This makes sense. I'm with it.
Yeah.
I slightly wish they were grittier, because every other like character that revolves around Krampus is such a grittier character that I'm like, you have these like really happy CGI cutesy kind of things, and I'm like, everything else is like demonic toys.
Well, I think I'm on like Kim's side with this when it comes to the gingerbread men, because it would make, because we first see them, it's like a cookie, a very good-looking cookie on a chain. That
is true. They're like the bait to bring in Howie Jr.
So it is kind of, a set up that, they look adorable. And also, considering that they look adorable, you try to make them look any more realistic, I would say if I get one uncanny, And at that point, just lean into it, that they are kind of cartoony. We already had the whole Omi backstory animation bit, which is one of my favorite parts of the film.
It's so good!
But in that whole fight scene, it's just goddamn funny with David Koechner getting his ass whooped by cookies. And as someone who actually had the privilege of walking through the Universal Studios Halloween horror house that was based on Krampus, the scene they recreated of the kitchen is fantastic. To see those little guys everywhere, including the classic gingerbread man staked to the
I love the candy cane, like the killer candy cane, so much.
And that's the one that Seth Green evidently
nice.
But I don't want to make sure we keep it wrong, because we did talk about a bit more at the start. But character-wise, for only the fact alone that we can, while I admire a lot of the antics of the sorority girls, I feel like I have to give the point of the Krampus to their family members, because they are a bit more distinct. You can tell who was who and what they kind of meant to represent, which is in their, frank favor. Plus the fact that they have both films, frankly, have fantastic elder matriarchs of Omi and, I'm looking for her name, make sure I get it right.
The house mother.
The house mother, who played Barbara.
Who loves Sherry.
Yeah. But what makes the kind of, pushes over the edge is the fact that Krampus also has Aunt Dorothy in there, who is, yes, a pain, but also funny.
Aunt Dorothy. She was in 2.5 Men. She was Rose. Or not Rose. She was, character name escapes me, but she was very similar character in that show, and she plays it very well.
She does a fantastic job. And yes, Bracken, the Horror Nights house was actually there when I worked at Universal Studios. It was so goddamn fun. It smelled of gingerbread the entire time. And the ushers outside were dressed as DLHH guys, frozen over. It was cool. It was great. Even ended with the classic, picturesque, holiday scene at the very end. You can find a video of it online. If you get the chance, I would recommend doing that. Because the outside looked fucking cool. And people all are acknowledging, by the way, Tiff, of Doggo Pupper with Coda.
Oh, yeah, sorry. He always wants attention, so he's very much going to pop up in here.
Yeah.
That's so much nicer than when I had to mute myself. It's to yell at my dog to get her nose out of the litter box. So this is cuter. I like this.
Until he hears my neighbor and then starts barking really, really loud.
You gave me Miss Tifa. She's with Grandma right now.
Aww.
I don't have a pupper. All right. So, monster time. Or villains.
Before we get into that, I do want to make a note to the audience that, yes, all of our dogs are best friends. Yeah. And it makes me so happy.
Yeah, Tifa haven't met.
No, but... Well, I guess Kona's friends with both of them, so...
So, really, Kona's just got all these girlfriends.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
No, Amelia's a lesbian.
She's a very old lesbian.
More you know.
She's a late life lesbian. Anyway, monsters.
Monsters, creatures of the night. I'm going to throw this one towards Tiff first. Only because you have probably the monsters that are by far more well known with Krampus.
Exactly. And there's more, I should say, in this movie where you have...
I was going to say, but which does beg, the challenge for you. You have to kind of deal with the fact that, yes, you have more, but is it a case of quantity over quality with yes. Black Christmas, right there, Kim?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, with that in mind, go forth.
So, monsters. So we start out with, we just the very first monster we see in the film, I believe, is Krampus, but it's completely in silhouette. And like we talked about, it's the scene where he's on the roof and you're seeing the huge scale, and then he's booking it after Beth. And then we get introduced to the Jack in the Box, which starts out super small. And then later when it comes into play, it's huge because it has just keep eating, so it keeps growing and goes from there. I kind of talked about where I feel like the weakest of the monsters is the gingerbread men. But then you also have We have the robot, which just stabs people in the back. It's a killer robot because it's a toy. You have the angel, which to me was always terrifying. I don't know if it's just because it was like a doll, but just like the demonic tongue, that kind of thing. That's really creepy. You have the teddy bear that gets stabbed in the eye and he's just missing an eye and bleeding goo everywhere. But I think that, and then you also have, I think the strongest of the toys is the Jack-in-the-Box, because you, like I said, you get this unhinged, just demonic, teeth-filled jaw that's swallowing people whole, and it's growing with every single person that you're eating. Going into actual like characters, you have the elves, which show up just to like steal the baby and steal the people, which to me has the funniest moment in the whole movie, which is where Aunt Dorothy gets ripped out and they literally have like a like cartoon little whoop as she gets pulled out the window, which is just hilarious. And then you get Krampus himself, which there was such this huge buildup, even in the stop motion animated like background where you find out what happened with Omi. He's in silhouette and you hear the screams of him taking her family members and leaving her behind. So then when you finally get this buildup and he shows up and he comes out of the chimney and then he just stoops up, you get this huge silhouette. His horns are huge. I love the way they costumed him. And my favorite part is the Santa mask, where people think that's his face, but it's a mask. And you can tell because you can see his eyes through the eye holes. And even the teeth, it's just like this fake, haha, I am Santa kind of thing, knowing that there's like this demonic, complete face underneath. And like the amount of weight when he is like on his hooves, and he'll just pick people up and chuck them into hell. So it does have a good presence, I think, where there was that buildup, and it was enough that I love the fact that they never revealed his whole face, because then, to me, it's always the imagination comes up with something scarier than what you can actually see.
Hey,
like reading,
that's a good point for me.
Yeah.
Reading. Your imagination is always scarier to me, or to at least to me, than to what you actually see. So the fact that you only see his eye, you see his tongue, but the rest is just this like creepy mask. I loved it so much. The design made me so happy.
Would you believe so many people were complained about like Krampus because they thought his face was static because they didn't realize it was a mask?
No, it's a mask.
No, the mask makes it so much scarier too. I like the mask. It's more interesting.
Same. Like they didn't realize it. I'm like, how can you not?
It's the design.
I don't know the like Krampus folklore very well. So if this is a part of the folklore, like that he dresses as Santa Claus, I don't know that to be true.
Not really.
I didn't think
not
so.
To my knowledge.
And so instead, it gives us this nice little peep into the character of Krampus, not just like what he can do, but it's like it's a little tongue-in-cheek of him to show up as with a Santa Claus mask. You know, the whole thing's a game to him. It's all just a bit of fun, and that's what it does. It's great.
That's the thing I love is like at the end when Max is finally realizing like his whole family's gone, and he comes and finds them and they're laughing and celebrating and having a good time, and he's trying to stand up to him and they're just laughing at him the whole time. Like to them, this is just a fun joke. And that's, I think, what's really creepy is that they're getting fun satisfaction out of it, and it's not like I really have to do this kind of thing. It's like I'm gonna do this to you because it's fun.
Yeah, to help kind of fill in some of the blanks cultural wise, because I did a video on Krampus 2 years ago, and just talking about his portrayal and his whole place and culture. He's very much from the cultures of Germany and of like the various northern part of Europe. He's been depicted at times as, a willing friend and ally to Santa Claus, to sometimes being a servant forced to do this stuff with Santa. And he's typically depicted as, he has a full-on goat demon. typically with one hell of a long, lanky tongue, which is why I love in the movie when you do finally like see him coming out of the chimney. He does have that long tongue, but it was like, yes, you have that. You at least got that one detail in. Awesome. And typically, yeah, he goes, kidnaps kids, puts them into his sack, and beats the shit out of them with thatch reeds. And with this film, it does beg the question of how it kind of insinuated, because you don't really see Santa Claus. Is he also technically Santa? Because he has the mask that looks like him.
I love that idea.
Yeah,
because it's like,
that.
I also, I love that this version of him, like, he's always kind of like the whole, like, oh no, if you don't behave, instead of getting coal from Santa, it's like, oh no, if you don't behave, Krampus is going to come and beat you. And this is instead like a very dark anti-Saint Nicholas, that it's like, no, if you don't believe in this, we're going to just rip your whole family away from you, and then you have to live with knowing that this is because of you.
Now, on the flip side, speaking of getting your whole family, take away from you. Oh, we do have a question though, real quick, from A the Ant. What is like your favorite interpretation of Krampus as a character? Would it be this film? Would it be some other film? Because actually, there's a surprising number of Krampus kind of appearances.
There are so many Krampus films,
especially around the time this one came out, and I watched a lot of them. A lot of them are shit.
But I want to know your opinion. I have to recuse myself. This is the only Krampus movie I've watched. It's the only Krampus I have to pull from. I didn't grow up with that folklore. I just know it exists because there's a lot of German people who live in Wisconsin, so I know that Krampus exists. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I've only seen 2. So I've seen this movie. I know of the legend and like the folklore more, and I watched one other Krampus movie. I cannot remember what it was, but like he was like a white goat, and I was like, no, I'm done.
A Christmas Horror Story is what you're thinking of.
Yes, that's what it was. Thank you.
That's a fun anthology film, in my opinion. For me,
can I say
yes.
Oh, I was going to say, I take back what I said. I'm going to go with when Dwight Schrute dressed as Krampus and came to the office. That's the other Krampus I've seen. I'll take that one. Anyway,
okay.
Go ahead, Jim, with your real movies.
I want to say it was a movie. My favorite version of Krampus, by and large, is the appearance of Krampus in the Venture Brothers. It's in their little holiday special, and they accidentally summon Krampus, who comes in and is like, what the fuck is he doing here? And in true Venture Brothers style, it's like, no, don't worry, it's fine. He only will go and seek out the naughty. And Dr. Venture, I'm not sure if you two have either seen the show, or at least know of it, it's like, oh, come on, there's no one naughty here. And before you can finish the sentence, he gets picked up and just starts getting swacked, spanked, for the whole goddamn party. And it's goofy, it's silly, but what I love most of all is that it's, by and large, save for this film, the most accurate depiction of what Krampus is. He comes in with 2 German children in his bag, talking in German, like, oh, geez, full-on bad German accents. And seeing the character get swacked with thatcheries is just goddamn silly as hell. And of course, they eventually wrestle him, and it's bazonkers. But a serious depiction would have to be this film. It's cool. It's fantastic. It is terrifying, considering how, and I should say even more so for the ending, but just how the whole thing ends for me is just so ominously creepy. It's like, yeah, I do not want to fuck with that guy ever.
That's like a whole another category, is the endings of these movies.
Yeah.
Both are incredibly bleak, which is surprising given how fun Krampus is.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
there's 2 ways you can take it, which I'll get into later. I'm like, there's 2 different ways you can take it.
And I know there's a definitive answer to one of those now because of an official comic book to the movie, which I'll bring up later when we get to ending portion.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I was saying about this earlier. One of them was indeed confirmed for Krampus now, which...
Ooh, that is good to know.
All right.
Yeah.
But on are we ready to hop over to Black Christmas?
Tell your monster.
Black Christmas, yeah.
The monster that is man.
Yes, the monster that is man. It is truly the specialty of give us nothing and you'll give us everything, because you see his perspective, you see what he can do, and he doesn't only kill. Like, when you see the crime scenes and we revisit them, they are brutal and gross and scary and just disturbing, but we literally have nothing. We have the phone calls and we have the actions. And in the phone calls, he does all these voices, so you don't even know for sure what his voice sounds like. He's playing multiple characters, and even the name Billy, that's only something that got assigned to him after the 2 remakes, because we never know that his name's Billy. Billy's a character that he talks to in his characters on the phone, and it's like among them, which, I mean, as far as the remakes go, in general, you can tell that I like the bleakness and the groundedness of the original. I hate the remakes. I'm not even going down that. I'm not going there.
Which is a thing that Bracken would appreciate, because he said much earlier on, just watch the first one, but not the 2 trash fire remakes.
No. They just didn't understand anything. One. They didn't understand anything that made the original good, and so it's just, throw it out. Don't look at it. But yeah, it's very much so you're filling in the gaps. You have these scary voices, and these obscene calls go hard. They're
terrifying.
Aggressive. They are violent and aggressive and weird. He's making animal sounds and calling them names, but it's not logical. And I think that's what makes it scariest, because what we can understand. Yes. And what you can conceptualize and understand, even if you could follow what his characters were saying and what they were doing, would be one thing. But he's spewing nonsense and then quoting the girls, so you know that he has some way of hearing what they're saying in the room. And so it's just, I mean, it's a masterclass in show us nothing, tell us nothing, and you've got a monster. All you ever see of his body is the eyeball, and we have the hand in a very Psycho-style knife shot. I think it's very scary. I don't have a lot more to say than that, because that's all there is to know about him, is just that he's an idea of insanity and violence that lingers in the house, and that's really freaky because you can't reason with insanity.
See, if I had to choose which one is scarier out of the 2, I'm definitely going with Billy, because the thing about Black Christmas that really resonates and terrifies me so much is that it's a realistic situation that could happen to you, and you have no say in it whatsoever. Versus like Krampus, it's a supernatural thing. Like, stuff has to happen for him to come.
Do you want to say it out loud, Tiff? Do you want to invite Krampus into your house like that? Whoa, back it up.
Hey, Krampus Daddy.
Krampus Daddy.
But
oh my God.
especially now as a woman who lives by myself in a really old house with giant creepy attic that you guys have all been up into. Like, that's a legitimate fear I have now, and it's so scary because it's such a realistic situation that happens.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you don't have things stored up there like, a rocking chair, hooks, plastic wrap, nothing like that, right? There's no like lattice.
There's lots of cardboard boxes up there and dead birds.
Nice window that overlooks the street.
Yeah.
Yes, there is actually.
I've been up there. It's spooky as hell.
It's so creepy.
Yeah. Now I know we already talked about it, but I at least want to add it in there. As far as Baka, sorry, I saw this. Baka says, "Say Krampus 3 times in the reflection of an ornament to summon him." Is he like Candyman now? I love that. No, maybe depends.
Krampus, no. Krampus, no. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's not test that. We've gone through enough this month.
Okay.
But Kim, with Peter, I would say he's like one of your monsters, like full stop.
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, that is a big one for me, is just how creepy Peter is as time goes on. But what I love about Billy most of all is that because he is so silhouetted, he embodies that like silhouette, that nightmare in the back of your mind. He is a conduit for your imagination to fill in the gaps of what he really is, what he's actually doing. He is basically what they would eventually try to do with Halloween. He is a shape out to kill you, and you can try to hide, you can try to run, but for all you know, Billy could be right behind you right now.
Yeah. And if we're bringing in Peter, then I feel like the other villains, and they're not really portrayed in, like, they're not the killers, they're not threatening per se, but the men in these women's lives, specifically, I'm thinking of the law enforcement that they go to in this movie. Right away, they call and they're like, we've been receiving obscene calls. We don't like it. There's another girl who has gone missing in town. There's a 13-year-old girl.
Damn it, John Paxton.
In the park. There's a girl who's murdered in the park, and they're still not being taken seriously as they're having these concerns. And there's one scene in particular that I think perfectly captures the way that their concerns are being given weight. Is at one point while they're trying to trace the calls and the police chief is on the phone with one of the girls, like, discussing what just happened and figuring it out, another cop walks in and he's been shot in the ass, okay? And it's goofy, like, he's in pain, or maybe it might be a guy who walks in with the cops. But anyway, it doesn't matter. There's a man who walks in who's been shot in the ass. And yes, it's a medical situation. It's a problem. But he's like, hey, I'll get back to you. He hangs up the phone. They all go over, and they're all laughing about how silly the situation is, while they are still in active, immediate danger over there. But men are just going to have a laugh about a butt in the office. And that's really why things end up as bad as they do. They never even do a full sweep of the house. They never find Claire. They never go to the attic. They never look. And they don't even... When the girls call, or even when they come into the office, into the station, they aren't even taken seriously until their boyfriends and their dads are with them and say, hey, actually, you should listen to these girls. And so when we're talking villains, I feel like the law enforcement in this movie is also such a villain.
Well, and there's that scene, too, where when I think it's John Paxton figures out what is going on, he goes, I need you to go over there, but you cannot tell them what is going on. You cannot tell them. And then the guy's just like, oh yeah, it's this. And I'm like, dude,
yes.
He just...
And it's important. It's, don't tell them that the killer's in the house. He says, yeah, the killer's in the house. And of course, all of her friends who've gone missing upstairs, that's what draws her back in. So that's even why I give her some credit when people are like, oh, well, she shouldn't have gone back in the house. I'm like, okay, she shouldn't have. She would have lived if she hadn't gone back into the house. But also, it's so human to worry and care about your loved ones. And if your found family is right upstairs and you're afraid that something's wrong and you might catch them on time and be able to save them or help them or something, by gosh, it's so normal to want to do that. And so really, you know what? I'm going to say she dies because of him. She doesn't die because of herself. She dies because of the cop on the phone who tells her that the killer's in the house, because otherwise she would have stepped outside, she would have lived, and Peter would have lived too, probably to hurt her later. But you know what? There would be less bodies. It would be a smaller body count.
Negligence.
So the real villain is the police.
Negligence. Yes. That's what it is.
Yep.
Before I run to my own thoughts and then for a verdict, I do got to read Baca's comment of shot in the ass, eh? Guess you could say the situation was, pause to put on sunglasses, a pain in the ass for them.
No.
But, yeah, this was a tough one for me because you're comparing two very realistic monsters of society with a character with such gravitas of, like, imagination conduit. I'm not sure really to phrase it other than that he allows your imagination to kind of fill in the blanks, which is phenomenal, compared to the menagerie made by Weta Workshop's various monsters and Krampus itself.
I forgot that Weta did the effects on this movie.
Yeah, Weta did all the monsters, which is why they look so goddamn good in Krampus. And I mean, if I would, it's rough because probably wants to go like, yes, Krampus, because one of the monsters, the teddy bear, which is like my favorite creature of the whole goddamn film, when you punch it, it squeaks, which is, I think, is a very quick sound effect you miss if you're not really paying attention, but it makes you giggle every time to hear like ah, and they're screaming through their pain, you hear the crunches of the bone and just willing on it, and you just hear eek eek eek. It's just love it, great. But I think for the fact alone that they are more developed monsters themselves, which is a lot to say considering his calls, I have to kind of give it to like Billy and Peter as just the monsters that I don't want to meet. And there's also a very other big detail that I'm going to reveal later why I think they went out, which we'll discuss in the next bit, which is the ending of both films, which have such big impacts. Now, it's up to you two, which of you want to go first in discussing the endings of these respective films, because they do have a lot of messages. This is where I really would say a lot of the Christmas spirit kind of comes in.
I feel like Kimberly went first twice. I'll go first twice.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, yeah.
So, ending of Krampus. We think that everybody has died. They have... his entire family has disappeared. Krampus has literally picked him up and is throwing him into hell. And then all of a sudden, Max wakes up. And it's Christmas morning. And everybody is kind of all happy-go-lucky. And you're just like, what the fuck is this? What is going on? Because I'm like, man, I'm not liking the ending so far if it's like this. But then he comes downstairs. They're like, there's something off. But everyone's together. And then Max opens up a present, which is the bell that Krampus leaves when he takes your family and punishes you. He leaves you as a reminder and the bell as a reminder. And he opens the bell, and then suddenly everybody's looking at it and they're like, oh shit, like everybody remembers. Even the dog remembers. You get a shot of the dog remembering what happened. Oh, Francine the bulldog. And then we get the kind of zoom out. Also, one thing that I didn't touch on, one of my favorite aspects of Krampus is the traditional German Advent calendar that shows up and that Max is opening each day. And it's just a little door. It has just a little picture, but it's like made out of wood. You can tell it's an antique. It's absolutely beautiful. And then in Omi's flashback, she has the same one up on her bedroom wall. So you know that she brought it with her and gave it to Max. But it zooms out of everything's back to normal, but they see it and they zoom out of the window and then they keep zooming out of the street and then it zooms out and everybody is in a snow globe. And it is in Krampus's lair and it's just riddled with snow globes everywhere. And then it kind of zooms in, zooms out, and then you're kind of left with, oh my gosh, there's so many snow globes. And then, of course, they have the jump scare of all these creatures come and jump at the screen. So it's kind of ending on a fun, silly note. Like, yes, it was a darker kind of take. Yes, there were some glory bits, but it's kind of like, haha, it's this fun little gotcha. But it leaves you with two thoughts, both of which are pretty bleak, I guess. But the bleakest one is that none of them actually survived, and they are now stuck in the snow globe to perpetually have to deal with Christmas morning, knowing what they went through. The other one is that the one I've heard is that the snow globes are portals to Krampus continuing to look in on the family to make sure that they are now being appreciative, and if they aren't, he will come back and take them.
Like Santa Claus.
Like Santa Claus. So again, he is like the darker opposite mirror effect of Saint Nick, where you have Santa versus him, where he's watching, but he's watching because if you don't fucking do it, he's going to take you. So those are the two different versions of the ending. And I appreciate that nothing's like super explained and it's kind of up to you to figure out which one is which. But according to Jim, we have an answer. And what is the answer, Jim?
And the one and the answer is, and that's the one that actually personally for me is more terrifying. It is the one where they are alive, they made it out, but Krampus is always watching, which that's what those globes are. They're meant to be like the snow globes from Santa Claus Comes to Town, where he has little magic crystal balls that come down to the family. Like, they still went through everything they did when he attacked. They went through hell. They got bit and burnt and went through fucking Eden as well. And they woke up the next day, and if you think about it, it's kind of haunting because he's like, oh, hey, kiddo, you finally woke up. I thought you would never get up, like, Max. Which begs the question, did each of them kind of like wake up the next day out of this nightmare, when they got? And think like, oh, okay, it was all just a dream, ha ha ha, until they see the bell. Personally...
And now you always have that in the back of your mind every single Christmas going, oh my God, I have to do this or he's going to come get me.
Yeah, because that's the thing I like about it. So you wind it back to the moment before Max wakes up and gets dumped into the pit. Krampus is like, the rest of his goons are laughing their asses off after, begs, take me instead. It comes off as cruel, as almost like they're laughing in his toughest moment. But if you look at it now, it's like, it's almost like them celebrating, like, yeah, boys, we did it. This one actually is willing to sacrifice himself for his family. Job fucking well done. Because we're about to ready to take these kids back and torture them forever. But now they found the spirit of Christmas, which to me is like almost the anti-hero way of what Krampus is kind of meant to be. Which is, he did punish them. He punished them hard. But to see that they learned their lesson is kind of cool, and it's like, here you go, boy, here's one last reminder to never forget this. Into the pit with you, to wake up the next day with the knowledge that, okay, we made it out, we learned the lesson, we're good, but if we ever fuck up or slip up, that's coming back for us hard. Because Omi never really explicitly says that she got her family back. As far as we are aware, she was orphaned at that point. So it can go both ways. And that's just, to me, like such a powerful Christmas message. But it's also why I gave the win to Bill and Peter, because Billy actually got a head count.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically, I think the only, dead people in the who remain dead are Omi's family.
Yeah.
I think it's just Omi's family are the only ones that remain dead. I love the sassiness too, and the cheekiness, like we were talking about too, like Krampus having this Santa Claus terrifying mask, but also he wrapped the bell in Max's letter to Santa that he ripped up as another little reminder, don't fuck up again.
Yeah. And the detail that he acknowledges that he wished his family was taken away. He's like, I take my wish back. It's also, I think it makes that moment just so much, good, better. I mean, it's unfortunate it took a comic book to really kind of establish that, but that's Krampus's kind of messy storytelling. But I don't know, for how long, the last decade, I've been saying it has been the snow globe crystal ball thing, and it feels so goddamn vindicated to be right.
We were right.
I thought it too.
I believed the other version. I thought that they all...
Because you love your bleak endings.
I do.
You love the bleak endings, which brings us into...
which brings us
Good segue.
to Black Christmas, which is one of the bleakest endings in horror.
It's so scary and sad.
So scary and sad. So, at this point, Olivia Hussey's character has killed Peter. And she's been knocked out too in the moment, and so the cops have all gotten to the house because that buffoon who sent her back into the house knew that this was going to be an issue. So they've all arrived, and everyone assumes that Peter was the killer. Which really, on a first watch, it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't feel like he was the killer because he's not the guy who would do all the weird voices on the phone. He seems too sane for that. But it is plausible at this point that the movie could be over. And so they have her laid up in her bedroom, and they're monitoring her for medical reasons. They decide not to move her. They decide to keep her there. And then they're like, you know what? We really shouldn't leave her by herself. Someone should stay here with her. Cool. And they decide that they're going to do that. And then not a full minute later, someone's like, hey, we're going to go do this thing. And they all leave her by herself. Negligence again. And there she is by herself. And this, through the end of the movie, through the credits, is completely silent. You can hear the ticking of the clock, but there's no music, there's no underscoring, and you're just watching her. And at this point, you're like, oh my God, this shit's not over. It can't be over. And we get shots of the bodies in the attic that the cops never found. And eventually, we get these long still shots of every room of the house that we've been in, where all these murders have happened. And I'm
literally getting chills and goosebumps right now thinking about this.
I know. You're watching it in the night and you're hearing just house sounds. And eventually we swap to that killer POV camera. Nothing happens, but he's still in the house. And then you just get the longest pull-out shot of the house as the credits roll. And it's, she dies. First of all, she dies so soon, but also he goes free, negligence wins, Billy wins. Like, it's just, and there's never justice for the house mother or Claire, whose bodies were never found. I mean, there's never justice for anyone, but never even any resolution. Their bodies are never found. No one looks because they just think it's an easy case. Boyfriend wanted to kill girlfriend and all of her friends because we don't like women. And I'm like, give them an ounce of attention and pay, like, it's devastating and really powerful, especially because everything's moving fast in that last sequence. You've got the whole sequence where she kills Peter, and she's been running from Billy, and so she thinks that she's gotten the killer, and then all the police arrive, so it's action, 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 and then silence for many minutes as you're like, oh my god, oh no, it's starting all over again. We're still in that same feeling, and we never escaped. Oh, that's the ending of Black Christmas.
Feeling it leaves in my stomach is just, ugh. But in the best way. Like, it's supposed to do that.
It's the intended effect, and it's one of the few movies that, like, I got to see it in a theater for the first time, which I was so excited to do. There was a 50th anniversary screening. It was myself and a couple of friends, and there was, like, one other guy there. So it was, like, very, very empty. And we sat through the entire...
Before you talk too much about your theater experience, hold that thought, because I'm going to get to that later. But I do want to hear more of it.
Oh, is it for a category?
Yep, it's the last category to help determine all of this.
Then forget theater experience.
Yeah, because that's going to be the big one here. We'll get to why in a second.
Yes. All right. I'm excited to hear it. But that's just the ending of it. And I think it's bold and terrifying. And it works. It just works.
And considering the lead up to that ending with, like, the lack of sound, all of it that comes in, for me, it kind of starts when she's in her final call, and you have that guy running around the whole phone grid board, and it's clicking left and right. And it's just like this cacophony of just wild noises punctuated by the words from Billy's crazy ramblings that just have it kind of, like, go into the whole chase and all that, which is terrifying. Because he's slamming against the door, it's even more chaotic that it's just a roller coaster of sound effects and sound design that leaves you uncomfortable. But it's almost like it awakens like almost like an animalistic side in you, which I think is much in its favor. Which is kind of why, at least I personally would say, as far as, like, better endings go, it kind of has to go to Black Christmas, because why I love Krampus' ending more, it required a comic book to kind of be clear about it.
I feel like Krampus gives you the option to figure out what ending you want, and Black Christmas just hits you right in the face with, you're like, nope, nobody makes it out.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's, like, ambiguous, but there's not. It's like almost have to kind of, like, bend over backwards to prove that Billy didn't come down and finish the job when he had the chance. I mean,
yeah, I mean, and she's still, even if he doesn't do it now, she's still going to college. All of her friends live there. Clearly, law enforcement didn't think it was important enough to say, hey, no one's going to be in this house anymore. A bunch of people died here. Let's move everybody out. They're like, killer's gone. Doesn't matter. House is good. And so that means as soon as everyone's from break, that house is going to be full of women again, full of people. And so even if it's not that he's going to get her tonight, it's the scarier thing of you're like, you don't know when it's going to happen, but you do know that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jim. What was your secret ending category?
Ending last category. It was going to be the movie experience. Like,
yeah, there you go.
I've seen of both of them. I will say though, I was going to go out there and say another category would be like in the Christmas spirit, but I feel like between the two, one of them is like brimming with Christmas spirit, which is. It's Krampus. There's... I
get my own category.
I mean, unless you... I could be wrong. I mean, Kimberly, if you think, for a quick aside here, if Black Christmas, which, yes, Buck, I did see your joke of sounds more like it was a red Christmas, to be honest. But, but, like, Christmas theme-wise, it doesn't really have that too strong. I mean, by and large, it is a better, I think, horror movie than a Christmas film. But I don't really feel much in there. It has a lot of Christmas elements, though.
Yeah, no, I do feel like that the true spirit of Christmas is the inescapability of violence against women. So I feel so uplifted right now.
Oh my God.
No, it is not a Christmas spirit movie. A part of me, and listen, I love that it gives a reason for the girls to leave. They're going on Christmas break, and it gives us the option of Christmas carols, which is this nice ambiance.
Because the carolers come to the house.
Right, they do. But that said, I almost wish that it wasn't a Christmas movie, because then more people would see it. More horror fans would think it's a real horror movie and see it and appreciate what it is. Because what it is just an excellent slasher. And it's not only a Christmas movie, but by being called Black Christmas, I feel like sometimes people think it's a blaxploitation movie. And so it's neither of those things, and I feel like it completely misses a lot of the audience it could have. So if it can function not as a Christmas movie, it's got zero Christmas spirit.
I could see it taking place over like a spring break.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I personally think, while it may have like strong Christmas elements, it does, I think, is served well by that kind of Christmas setting quite a bit. Because I know I saw Release of Brock and he was joking like Black Christmas just puts everyone in that true Christmas spirit. Ha ha ha. But that's the thing. People forget like the Christmas Carol is a ghost story. The classic song lyric telling, scary ghost stories of Christmases long, long ago. Like, there's an element to this time of the year that's tied into a lot of the pagan side of things, which is typically, stories about death and renewal and Yule, yeah. And I feel like it is important to kind of have those tales of like death this time around the year to kind of realize to cherish what you do have, as that on top of the fact that there's a lot of family here. Like the sorority girls are kind of a family in themselves, and how they try to band together, and maybe because of lack of negligence or what have you, they kind of fall apart one by one. It's the most tragic. So it kind of does have that impact there. So while it might scare some people away, I think it's still worthwhile showing to people because if anything, it brings horror fans together.
Yes. I just wish more people would see it.
Yeah. But it's hard to beat with Krampus's, blatant like, hey, you have the true spirit of Christmas to really survive Krampus.
And the one thing I like about this too is that I feel like we're not like, while we are very competitive people, we're like, I like both movies. It's just I like one more than the other.
Yeah,
100%.
Which kind of brings it down to, I think, this kind of last important thing, which is the theater experience for both of these films. Like, what is it like to see it in theater with an audience of live reactions, what have you? Because there's a lot to be going to go both ways with this. Because, I mean, you just saw, in a bunch of good kind of picking this back up here, Kimberly, with talking about your experience, because you just saw a Black Christmas in theaters.
A week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I was really glad I was able to see it, too, because it was a 50th anniversary screening, and I think it might be the last and only opportunity I had to see it in a theater, because at this point, it's after its 50th, so the next big anniversaries, it will be a very old movie at that point. But then also, it's Christmas time, so all the theaters near us that like to play classic movies are playing classic Christmas movies. If it were Halloween time, maybe I'd have a chance, but no one's going to play this another time of year. So I went and saw a special screening of it, and like I said, I was one of 4 people in the whole theater, so it was super, super quiet, and there were no trailers because it was the special screening, so it literally just started right on time, so no time
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really set a vibe. And for reference, I'm a movie talker. Like, I'm a yapper. I'll crack a joke. I'm a nuisance.
None of us are like that at all.
No, none of
whenever
us.
I watch movies, I make it a requirement to have the subtitles on. Otherwise, no one who is trying to watch would get the plot.
Tiffany has changed her settings at her house to have subtitles because I can only watch movies with subtitles. I can only do it. I have to. And so this movie starts with those really long shots of the house and the killer POV and the breathing. And this movie ends with the really long shots of the house and the killer POV and the breathing. And so from start to finish, you're immediately dropped into that gut feeling. And when I tell you this theater was silent, it was drop a pin silent, not a comment on anything. The whole movie, you could feel us all holding our breath. And so, will I say it's like my favorite movie experience? No, my favorite theater experience was definitely The Substance. Because people were yelling and screaming, and I love that energy. But I do think the experience in the movie theater really matched exactly what the movie was going for, which kind of showed to me, I brought people who hadn't seen it before, and it made it clear to me that I was like, no, it's not just that I love this movie, it is really effective at building the tension that it's seeking to build.
I want to also give a huge shout out because I know that we all, spoiler alert, live in Milwaukee, and it's not usually like a big city thought for many things, but Milwaukee has some of the greatest old theaters that still play movies to this day. Like, the Oriental's our home. We love the Oriental Theater, but there are so many different ones around the city that if you can, please go support your local old historic theaters because they are amazing.
Yes, 100%.
Oriental, Avalon. I still need to go see something at the Downer, and I'm surprised that
Downer's great.
It's been this long.
The Times.
You got right by us.
I want to get to the Times.
The Rosebud. There's so many. It's excellent.
I like our films. And
we're cinephiles.
Who'd have thought, as we try to put together various, not just this podcast, but I know you both have your own respective shows and channels as well, which I'll make sure to plug at the end here, and you should all definitely go follow them there. This is tough for me because I was so determined to go see Black Christmas in theaters, but this month with all the cons Jade been doing, I just not have had the time to really get around to it, so I unfortunately could not. It's almost like living vicariously through you, because I love to see films in theaters, because to me that is like the preferred way to watch anything, to have it kind of blown up in front of you with a live audience, because this is why I like live theater, and you just having the audience reactions just adds to the fun, the shrieks, the laughs, which is why to me it's such an important part about ranking either of these films that I think is often forgotten when people try to, determine which one's better. And
the thing that's probably going to tip the scale is that I will say I had the opportunity to go with Kimberly to see this, and I chose not to because I knew for a fact that the theater experience would make it even more terrifying to the point where I wasn't going to want to go home. So I'm like, I'm going to pass on that because I knew that it would intensify the fear. I knew it would make it even more scary, and which is fantastic. However, when I live in one of those types of houses, I was like, I can't do it. No, I can't do it.
Yeah. See, that's why I would want to go see it, just be more terrified. For me, what also kind of tips in Krampus's favor a little bit, which I'm gonna have to strike from any kind of bias for any kind of bias reasons. I gotta shove this to the side. I can't put this in my ruling because I saw Krampus twice in theaters when it came out.
Really?
I liked it. I saw it the first time with my father. Was blown away by how much I enjoyed it, and then immediately went on my way to drag my mother and Jade to the theaters to go have them see it. Like, you need to see this. This is so good because I wanted it to do well. But I'll never forget that because it's very few films I've seen twice in theater, and funny enough, two of those films are Christmas movies.
What's the other one?
The the Jim Carrey Grinch film.
Oh my god,
You know
I
what?
saw that in
Excellent.
theaters with my parents.
Yeah.
I did.
Excellent.
I saw it.
Yeah.
My thing is I actually missed the theatrical release of Krampus. I didn't see it until probably a couple years ago. But to me, I didn't have that whole theater experience. But to me, the experience with Krampus is that it is a fun movie that I always have one friend who has not seen it. So I can be like, all right, we're going to watch this. All right, we're going to watch this. Like every year it's showing it to somebody new. And I feel like it's a very good party movie where you want to be surrounded by friends and watching it with multiple people because somebody's going to notice something different that maybe somebody else didn't, because there's very rich environments and there's always like a creepy thing going on in the background, or like this one elf I never noticed before was doing this one thing. And it's just kind of more of like a friend vibe that you want to talk through and notice things with friends and kind of do that. So it's very two different experiences where you have this amazing, quiet, terrifying, you have to go see it in the theater, versus more of like, this is a group kind of event. We're going to enjoy this really dark kind of comedy horror and go from there.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I'm already getting ideas pitched to me. This is what's throwing my reaction and process off in my head for other holiday graveyard gushes, namely April Fool's Graveyard Gush with The Room versus Cool Cat Saves the Kids. So, maybe? I mean, there is
Who knows?
There's an April Fool's horror film, which is frankly trash. I can't stand April
You
Fools.
just offended Kimberly so
really?
hard.
Disagree. I do like it. Yes.
I'm able to watch
I
it with
think-
friends then.
Hold up. I'm not thinking of the right movie. I'm thinking of Happy Death Day. I step back.
No. I'm
I
like,
love
what are you
Happy
thinking
Death
of?
Day.
No,
You want to
I'm thinking
offend
of-
Kimberly? If you want to offend Kimberly, you tell her that Return of the Living Dead is so good or so bad it's good, and then she gets so upset at me.
It's so good. It's good.
I love it. I do, but I always say it's so bad it's good, and then
Every
she
one
gets
of
so upset. We're gonna have to blur your whole screen right now.
This is live, unfortunately, and I really can't go my way because I'm poor and one man to go through and just. We're this far into. It's an hour and a half into.
We're
this.
almost done. It's
We're almost
fine.
done. We're almost done. Yeah, and you're getting some love in the chat there, Kimberly, with Return of the Living Dead. That it is indeed.
So good.
It's so bad it's good. No. They said I that's wrong. That is. They did say, and I quote. Brackett did say, "Return of the Living Dead is great," and I do agree.
It is very good.
I couldn't help myself. Oh, okay. So, oh God, Brackett's now like, yes, you do know where you live, and he also does shows with me too. So I will not hear the end of it later. He does my charity streams with me. Oh God, Bracken, I should say from earlier, they did miss both of these films in theaters, and theaters here there very rarely replay older films, and that's a crime because I think both are served well to be seen again. And for this, for me, it's really a strong tie because of just like what both really have done in terms of just looking at their audience experiences. The fact that Kimberly was warranted silent by a film is incredible, which says a lot. And I say that with almost love because I love you.
Because Kimberly is very opinionated, and it's not a bad thing.
And the thing is, we're all guilty. We're all
Keep going.
guilty.
Let's go.
We're all guilty when it comes to
like-
these films. We talk so much, and I love it, but I'm also.
Oh man,
I'm also
Jim's channel's just my roast now.
No, I said it's a good thing.
Yeah. And to be honest, like, I'm probably the one guy in the group who is like, yes, I like to talk, but it's also like, this is the good part. And I do it to my wife too, and she rightfully gets pissed at me all the time. I mean,
I can hear her yelling at you in my head right now.
oh yeah, I'm surprised she hasn't come out to glare at me yet. So for me, and you please, by all means, once I'm done, chime in on this. The cultural impact, I think, is really what kind of decides all of this in the end. Because both of these films have such strong qualities in both parts that if you look at it in general, that Black Christmas has a stronger, to me, cultural impact, while Krampus is more of a holiday impact. But what's like the overall history behind it all? Like, Krampus, for instance, has been exploding as of late for merchandise. Like, Spirit of Halloween now is... I hate it, by the way, that it's Spirit Halloween, not Spirit of Halloween. Knows me to no end that the story is missing that of. Back to my point, though. But you're seeing so much Krampus merch there lately. Krampus from, like, movie-specific Krampus, not just generic Krampus. The fact that Krampus got a goddamn fucking Halloween Horror Nights house in Universal Studios back in, I want to say it was 2016. So maybe a year or two after it came out in films, in theater, that was 2015.
Yeah, because it came out in 2014, I believe, because we were like at the 10-year, I think. I could be wrong.
According to Google, it came out in 2015, and then Krampus.
Gotcha. So next year will be the 10-year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we can have an amazing theater experience at the Oriental, because all I can imagine is I would love to watch Krampus at the Oriental Theater, where we're cuddled in the middle with blankets and hot chocolate, like we're there in the cold night, except the theater is always warm as fuck.
Yeah, and the oversized, big old gingerbread men popcorn buckets, because that's apparently...
Hey, Petey would let us bring in our own gingerbread cookies, I can tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Love that. But compare that to, like, Black Christmas, which, yes, doesn't really have, like, I don't think any merchandise, but the fact alone that I can show you that eye from the film. And
I'll cry.
And the fact that anyone who's seen the film will get shivers down their goddamn spine by it. To me, I think in the end, kind of has to get this whole kebab to Black Christmas. Like,
understandable. Yeah. Completely. As somebody who is voting for Krampus and no, Black Christmas wins.
Yeah, as to me, as like the better, both horror Christmas movie. Yeah, it's... And maybe I'm just saying that to make sure that eye doesn't come staring at me in the middle of the night. But, oh god, I switched cam at the wrong time. Ah! But overall, it is the better film. I'm such a Krampus stan. But if I keep my bias out of there, Black Christmas is such a very important history of cinema that laid the foundation for so much more. Now, maybe
I'm right there with you, Jim.
Yeah,
right there with you.
Maybe in time, Krampus could do the same. You're right, Bracken. Wrong time, you mean the perfect time. Yes, that was the perfect time. But goddamn.
Yeah, I think part of it is just that one of them was doing really new things in horror at a really pivotal time for the slasher, and so it's important as a horror movie. Krampus is really, really fun. I don't know if it's important to cinema. I think it's just really, really fun. And that's okay. We're allowed to have movies that are just fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also really want to go to Spirit Christmas. Like, they need to bring one closer to us.
I know. They're like all in Massachusetts, so let's all move to Boston.
Woo! Then can go and talk about Boondock Saints around St. Patty's Day.
Go.
That's kind of a horror movie, right? Can we like make that stretch?
It's gory.
True. I mean, it's horrific.
A cat dies. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it's horrific if you're a gangster or a mafia. Yeah.
Who's to say I'm not? You don't know me like that. You don't know my life.
True. You are a magician's assistant. Who knows? He might be hiding like drugs or cash inside that little top hat of his or something. I don't know. But God, heckity flippity gibbet. So there's a few last things I wanted to ask here, just unrelated to our film discussion, which was great, by the way. Thank you both again for coming here tonight. That I've been meaning to bring up from our audience. I know earlier, let's see who asked. It was Vessel. Was it? No, was it Vessel? Where is it?
You'll find it. I believe in you.
Yeah. Might have been Baka. Someone mentioned a movie that I've not seen. I want to see if you did. That's Vessel. It was Vessel. They said, have you seen the red one? It has Krampus, and it's one of my favorite parts of the movie when he's seen. In the film, Krampus is Santa's adoptive brother that likes to punish the naughty, and Santa says no. Have either one of you seen that before? Or
I have not. I saw a trailer for it, and I went, oh my god. But then Chris Evans is in it, and I'm not going to lie, I really like Chris Evans.
Oh, the red one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it's the new one with like J. Simmons.
Okay.
J.K. Simmons, The Rock, and Chris Evans.
That's a Netflix film,
yeah, Lucy Liu. I've heard nothing but terrible things.
Really?
I've heard, I'm gonna be so real with you, I've heard that it is devastatingly bad, and that might be why it's already streaming, even though it's not even Christmas.
It's on Prime right now.
It's not even Christmas yet, and it's on Prime because they desperately lost so much money on it that they're trying to recoup as fast as they can. I'll be honest, not a priority, but Krampus is the name of one of the naughty people in Violent Night who tries to nutcracker the dad's nuts. So,
the creepy dude is Krampus.
Yes, his name is, well, I mean, I think it makes sense. So that's another kick-ass Santa movie with a Krampus.
Yeah, I will say this, though, compared to the other two films, it does have the higher audience score for the moment of 90%.
Really?
Beating out both...
go watch Red One and then go watch Black Christmas and you tell me which one is a better movie. Go.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm not sure if Vessel's
Isn't there a
still
talking
here.
polar bear in the red one?
I believe
think so. Yeah.
I think so.
I wonder if it's the Coca-Cola bear. I don't know.
Oh, that would be kind of funny, actually. That's kind of a good bit.
I mean,
no, we have not seen the red one. That was the answer to the question. We haven't seen it.
No. I thought I was like, oh, is that some movie that came out ages ago? I totally forgot about that film. I've been seeing ads for it everywhere. Oh man. Your reaction though, yeah, on Rotten Tomatoes, Black Christmas has 76%. So currently,
that's it.
Although I have seen people theorize, and this isn't just out of protectiveness of this is other research that I've seen recently, that Rotten Tomatoes now has more relationships with the studios, and so how Rotten Tomatoes used to be trustworthy as like almost everything has a relatively low score, and it's just like how high they edge up each other, but overall their average ratings have gone up immensely over the years, and probably due to some money.
No, okay, I could see that. Gosh, the comments from I've seen pop in. Bracken, by the way, did say they really enjoyed this whole discussion. I agree. This was
Yay!
fun.
I'm so glad.
We need to do more comparison episodes.
I love it.
Yeah. Baka joked that Shin Godzilla for Mary Carey's birthday. But they also mentioned that, hey, let's get it back in Red One in theaters like Morbius. What could go wrong there?
Oh my god, I hate Morbius so much. I hate it so much.
God. Jade, when she saw that, we saw for the first time down in Illinois with a friend of ours, and they gave her edibles, and pretty much the entire film was basically her asking the guy back and forth, like, how can he do X? And him trying to, because he's a genius. But does it make sense? How does he also know to do this? Because he's a genius. They've established this. It was an experience I wish I taped and will never forget. But I do agree though, Bracken. We use this as kind of a tip off to like Red One and Mobius, is that yes, it came and went like a fart in the wind. God damn. Okay, so before we kind of sign off here, do either one of you have any kind of final thoughts you want to bring up? Anything you would like to share?
No, I feel like we were pretty good.
We covered it.
Like I said, I love Krampus. It has a very special place in my heart. It's one of my go-to Christmas movies that I have to watch every year. But I was like, oh no, Black Christmas is going to win. I will try my best, but Black Christmas is going to win.
And on the flip side, I love Black Christmas. It's on my letterboxd. It's one of like my 4 favorite movies that's on there. So it is like very near and dear to my heart. But I saw Krampus for the first time like a couple weeks ago, and it's fun. Yes, at your house, and then the next day I came over to your house and you were watching it with my husband, so I saw Krampus 1.5 times.
Way to call me out on that.
It's fun. It's very fun.
It is, and I wish it didn't just like poof out of existence the second it kind of came out. It's still getting more and more of that cult status it deserves. So, I think, as you say, Tiff,
it's just like the Christmas spirit. We have to keep Krampus alive.
Yeah.
I do believe in Krampus.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Krampus.
It's like our generation's version of like Hocus Pocus, or gosh, any number of films that people said like, oh shit, and now it's like constantly, spoken as a cult classic or like an underrated classic online. Like Hook, for instance. I'm glad that's getting a new like.
Oh yeah, Hook is very much getting a resurgence right now.
Yeah.
And like Lisa Frankenstein will get in 10 years, because that's just the Diablo Cody treatment, because no one likes it in the moment, ever. And they're always wrong.
Because Jennifer's body is now getting everything it deserves.
Exactly. This, by the way, is kind of spun off the fact that recently, I shared to the others that Variety said that Lisa Frankenstein was one of the worst films of the year for them. Which I think is bogus.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
Love it.
One of my top films of the year for me.
Shadowpeen.
It's so good.
The Dream.
Anyway.
So many good stuff in there. Now, this unfortunately means I think this is the last gush of the year. We do this kind of bi-weekly. The next one would be on the 6th in 2 weeks. But I do want to thank you two, as well as anyone who's been on the show this year. It's been kind of a rocky start with trying to work out with everything, with editing and all that, but I do appreciate working with me. I've been loving the live format a lot. It's I think
it's so much fun.
It is. It's given it a lot of life and the spirit that kind of felt like it needed. And who knows?
Yes.
And now we've kind of nailed it down. It's, I think, only get better the new year, and with all the good movies coming out, it will just, yeah. Ooh.
Nosferatu coming out on Christmas.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But regardless of whether you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, Yuletide,
Krampusnacht,
well, that's kind of along with Christmas, but whatever. Regardless.
All right.
Yeah. Hope it's a good one. Make sure to check out these lovely ladies' respective endeavors, which should be down in the description below. Tiffany's part of Brit and Tiff, which is a YouTube channel that focuses mostly on just reviewing horror spooks and doing fun little car cuts from moments after the film. I know Kimberly,
you can also find me on TikTok at Tifficus.
Yeah, I know Kimberly, you also have your own growing TikTok kind of thing. You also started a podcast as well?
Yes, yep. I am Kale Name on TikTok. I talk about horror, and I have a horror movie podcast called Scary Accurate. We just dropped our first episode a couple weeks ago, so help us out and go follow us. It's Scary Accurate Pod on all the things, all the channels.
Yeah. And you can find me here on this very channel you've been watching for the last hour and a half, whether it be live or after the fact. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, consider liking and subscribing. And yeah, quick shout out to really everyone who kind of chimed in today. Baka, Bracken, Vessel, A the Ant, anyone else who might be kind of hiding out there. And if you've been watching this well after the fact, hey, thank you for making it to the end. Let us know down below what kind of films you want to see in the future. We need to find some films, I think, to watch for the new year, especially New Year's Eve. I think, isn't Terror Train a New Year's Eve horror film?
I don't know.
I'll have to double check.
Find something.
Go find something. Otherwise, there's so much coming out next year, and so much we still need to go back and cover. In fact, I still have 2 very big episodes. Heretic.
Heretic is excellent.
Yeah. Oh, Bodum has been here in secret this entire time. But yes, I do have 2 pre-recorded episodes I meant to share earlier this year on Texas Chainsaw Massacre and on Longlegs that might just release entirely raw just to get them goddamn out there finally.
Longlegs. I think out of everything to release raw, Longlegs is the one to
You didn't miss it, but Kimberly's kind of doing the hand things. But anyway, go enjoy your holidays. We'll see you in the new year. I'll be back on stream this week talking about D&D again for the first time in a long while. So yeah, see you then. Love you all. Bye-bye.